hallelujah means you praise Yah. Hallel Yahweh means I will praise Yah. So Hallel Yahweh and hallelujah. So we both will praise Yah on this beautiful, flat, and level plane that He created for us underneath the firmament, the rakia, the mighty dome that He has placed over us as protection. So He has not left us uncovered. He says that He covers us with His wings. It says that He has spread a tent out above us, right? So we're going to go ahead and get back into the testimony of the things that are easily seen in this world that prove without a doubt, that the earth is a flat, level, stationary plane. So we are in the airplane level flight proves the earth is flat. That's right. And let's look at that word a little bit. Airplane, right? So obviously it's in the air because it's flying in the air. And it's flying over a plane. Okay? So if the earth had any curvature in it, the plane would be designed with that in mind, okay? Because then the pilot would have to always be pushing the nose to dip down to adjust for the curvature of the earth. But of course we know that that does not exist. So let's jump right into it and talk about this. This video is going to be real jam-packed full of all kinds of different types of videos of airplanes and pilots admitting, yes, the earth is flat. The earth is flat. If the earth were a globe, airliners would not be able to fly on a flat and level path. Any pilot will tell you that once a plane gets to its cruising altitude, the pilot levels off and flies in a straight and level path. Indeed, the pilot uses the horizon to ensure that the plane is flying level. When visibility is poor, the pilot will use the instruments and fly a level heading, using an artificial horizon. Either way, at all times, the plane flies level once the pilot reaches cruising altitude. If the earth were a globe, the pilot would have to constantly adjust the heading of the plane and dip its nose down to keep a constant altitude. However, the earth is in fact flat, so if a pilot dipped the nose of the plane down to adjust for the supposed curvature of the earth, he would find that he is losing altitude. If the pilot kept on that downward trajectory, the plane would crash into the earth. The fact that no such downward adjustment is made by pilots for the supposed curvature of the earth is proof that the earth is flat. Eric Dubé explains, if the earth were a sphere, airplane pilots would have to constantly correct their altitudes downwards so as to not fly straight off into supposed outer space. If the earth were truly a sphere, 25,000 miles circumference, curvating 8 inches per mile squared, a pilot wishing to simply maintain their altitude at a typical cruising speed of 500 miles per hour would have to constantly dip their nose downwards and descend. Otherwise, without compensation, in 1 hour's time, the pilot would find themselves 166,666 feet, or 31.5 miles higher than expected. A plane flying at a typical 35,000 feet, wishing to maintain that altitude at the upper rim of the so-called troposphere, in 1 hour would find themselves over 200,000 feet into the quote-unquote mesosphere, with a steadily raising trajectory the longer they go. I have talked to several pilots, and no such compensation for the Earth's supposed curvature is ever made. When pilots set an altitude, their artificial horizon gauge remains level, and so does their course. You can do the same thing. We have talked to pilots ourselves, and go ahead and ask them any question you like about these things. They will confirm to you that no compensation is made, no dipping of the nose is made. Indeed, the Federal Aviation Administration, also known as the FAA, assumes a flat earth when training pilots, and air traffic controllers using their target generation facility. The TGF consists of several software programs that control simulation scenarios using a simulated aircraft. The FAA states, "Our lab has worked closely with the TGF group to have aircraft perform the way air traffic controllers would expect them to behave in the real national airspace systems." The simulated aircraft in TGF are quite realistic representations of their real-life counterparts. The assumption of a flat Earth can be seen in a publication from the FAA. The engineering analysis and design of the aircraft dynamics model for the FAA target generation facility. That FAA publication explains the software that is used by the TGF to accurately simulate.
Than anything?
What was that?
It's more flat than anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Flat or a ball?
Flat.
Lots of ball. I think it's flat.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty flat to me.
It certainly does, doesn't it? And you've got that flight in.
Excuse me, do you mind?
Hey, how you doing?
Very well, how are you? So you know how we just took a flight of descent?
Yeah.
Did you have to compensate for curvature?
Yeah.
So did you just have to compensate for curvature due to the flight of descent as we landed just now?
No, not necessarily. Yeah.
Alright, thank you so much.
You bet.
So the pilot just told me that the Earth is flat.
Hey guys, I just want to say thanks for the smooth flight.
Right.
I did have one question. Is there like a specific angle of downward tilt you have to fly at?
3 degrees.
3 degrees
That's it.
for the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, for the Earth?
Because,
No, we just fly over the troposphere.
really?
Yeah.
Do you have to keep like kind of going down because?
No, we actually have to nose up. It flies. Yeah.
Really? Because I was reading some stuff on the flat Earth that made a lot of sense. Have you looked into it?
Which one? Sorry.
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright, cool.
All right.
God bless, brother.
Alright, have a good one.
You too.
I'm a fellow, Casey Josh, I'm a fellow just PPL, pilot, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I've got a couple of serious questions to ask you.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's a big time. Curvature.
Curvature.
Yeah,
Yep.
we don't allow for curvature, do we?
Yeah. For anything, not for you usually.
No, we're round, we're a disc, aren't we? Round and flat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, look, honestly, quite seriously,
Yeah.
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
The behavior of aircraft over the Earth. Specifically, this document discusses the detailed engineering, design, and software implementation of an aircraft dynamics model, suitable for incorporation into the FAA TGF simulations at the FAA Williams J. Hughes Technical Center, Atlantic City, New Jersey. The model is designed to be implemented on computers located within the facility and to work in conjunction with software models of radar, data links, and other air traffic management equipment to provide real-time simulation of aircraft operating within the national airspace system. The observant reader will notice that the aircraft equations of motion were calculated assuming a flat Earth, and that we here assume the development frame was the northeast down frame. This implies necessarily that Earth rotation and the variation of the gravity vector with position over the Earth were ignored in developing the aircraft equations of motion. The model is adequate for all vehicles traveling under Mach 3. So any airplane or aircraft traveling under Mach 3. Notice that the FAA document both assumes a flat Earth and ignores the rotation of the Earth and gravity. The FAA maintains that the computer model assumes a stationary, flat Earth and at the same time remains precise and accurate regarding the flight of aircraft. The only way that a stationary flat Earth can be the basis for a model, and that model still be accurate, is if the Earth is in fact flat and stationary. That means that the ignored gravity and rotating globular Earth do not affect the accuracy of the model, because they do not in fact exist in reality. Let me just press this in a little bit deeper of what they are saying. They are literally saying that the FAA, which is in charge of the simulators that pilots are trained at, in the simulated model, which they just described as trying to get as close to the real life national airspace systems, in order for them to learn properly and as close to realistic as possible, they had to make it realistic. If they would have made their simulation to match their deception of a globular Earth, pilots would jump into their airplanes, real life, start dipping and start doing all this stuff that would need to be that they would be trained in for a globular model of Earth, and dip into the Earth and die. So they can't do that. They have to make it a real life simulation. And as you've heard me say and read from the FAA itself, that yes, this model is modeled after a flat and stationary Earth. Okay, so let's move on. The entire purpose of the TGF simulation is to create as real a simulation of actual aircraft flight over the Earth as is possible. The TGF is designed to have high fidelity to reality, the FAA publication states. The models provide the performance characteristics needed to support high fidelity simulation. The goal of this project has been to develop and maintain a high fidelity simulation capability to meet the needs of the FAA in operating, testing, and evaluating its NAS, National Airspace. Okay? Unquote. So once again, the FAA publication states that this is as close to real life as possible, because otherwise the pilots would not be trained for real life situations, okay? The reality to which the TGF software is faithful is that the Earth is stationary and flat. If the TGF simulator based its model on the false premise of a globular spinning Earth, it would create a safety issue for aircraft. The FAA simply had to assume a flat Earth because that is reality. If the FAA had assumed a spinning spherical Earth model, the pilots and air traffic controllers would be trained improperly and create the messy and embarrassing result of planes crashing with regularity. Since safety is paramount, it was necessary for the FAA to verify with real-life testing the algorithms in the TGA simulator that assume a flat, stationary Earth. The FAA publication reports that, quote, the testing that was done to verify and validate the TGF simulation gives us a high degree of confidence that the models contained herein have sufficient fidelity for use as a target generating tool, unquote. The models that the testing validated as being faithful to reality to a high degree of confidence assumed a flat, stationary Earth. That means that the FAA verified through actual testing with aircraft with a high degree of confidence that the Earth is flat and stationary. The U.S. government implicitly acknowledged the reality of the flat, stationary Earth in another official publication. In NASA's 1988 publication number 1207, titled Derivation and Definition of a Linear Aircraft Model, it states that the generally accepted linear aircraft model is based upon, quote, a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth, unquote. Every commercial and military aircraft has on board an instrument that can only work on a flat Earth. Pay attention. That instrument is the attitude indicator, which is also known as an artificial horizon. That artificial horizon instrument has a display that shows the pilot the attitude of the plane to the actual horizon. Even if he cannot see the horizon because it is obscured by inclement weather or darkness, the pilot can determine the roll of the aircraft, i.e., if he is flying level, and the pitch of the aircraft, i.e., if the nose of the aircraft is pointed below or above the horizon. That attitude indicator works by means of a spinning gyroscope mounted on a gimbal. A gyroscope has two important properties. Number one, rigidity in space, and two, precession. All practical applications of gyroscopes are based on these two properties. Precession means that the gyro will resist any force that attempts to change its plane of rotation. A force applied to the gyro will result in a movement of the gyro, but not in the direction of the applied force. The gyro will instead move at right angles to the direction of the applied force. The rate of precession is in direct proportion to the applied force. The most important property of a gyroscope for a pilot is rigidity in space. That means that a gyroscope will retain its horizontal attitude parallel to the direction of the spin of its rotor and retain its vertical attitude in relation to its rotor's axis. The rotor's axis around which it spins is the y-axis, which is vertical. The horizontal plane of the rotor is on the x, which is lateral, and the z is depth. Thus, if the spinning gyroscope is on a gimbal, that allows for rotation through the three axes, x, y, and z. The gyroscope will retain its original attitude in relation to the x, y, and z axis, and the gimbal will move around the fixed gyroscope. The x, y, and z axis of the gyroscope will remain rigid in space, offering a fixed matrix upon which the airplane can move. Any difference between the fixed axis of the gyroscope and the moving airplane will show up in the coordinates on the attitude indicator instrument. That is what the gimbal attached to the aircraft in the instrument bays allows. The problem with the spherical Earth model is that a plane with the attitude indicator showing straight and level flight will cause the plane to fly off into the upper atmosphere as the curve of the globe falls away from the aircraft. The only way that a pilot on an aircraft can fly a straight and level path using his attitude indicator is on a flat Earth. Indeed, as indicated, the plane would be in a vertical trajectory after flying 1/4 of the circumference of the Earth, a distance of approximately 6,250 miles. Incidentally, they tried to explain away this apparent problem by stating that there is a continuous adjustment to the attitude of the gyroscope built into the attitude indicator instrument. However, the mythical on-the-fly adjustment to the gyroscope is impossible, as such an adjustment would render the gyroscope useless. Recall that the fundamental property of the gyroscope is that it maintains its rigidity in space. If the fundamental property of a gyroscope, which is rigidity, can be so easily altered, that means that rigidity is not truly a fundamental property of a gyroscope. An adjustment to the fundamental characteristics of rigidity and space of the gyroscope, if it were possible, would defeat the whole reason to use the gyroscope. It would make no sense to use an instrument with a gimbal gyroscope that would require an additional feature to neutralize the primary property of the gyroscope. Rigidity in space is exactly the opposite of what is called for in an attitude indicator on a spherical Earth. A gyroscope attitude indicator instrument is necessary on a flat Earth, but that same instrument would be pointless and even dangerous on a spherical Earth. A gyroscope attitude indicator keeps its attitude precisely perpendicular on its axis on a fixed plane to the spin of its rotor and perfectly level in relation to the surface of the Earth, because the Earth is flat. The rigidity and space of a moving gyroscope that maintains its attitude is only useful in an attitude indicator on a flat Earth. A gyroscope attitude indicator simply will not work on a globe. One interesting thing revealed in the illustration from the United States Navy training film is the fact that if the Earth were a spinning globe, a gyroscope in a gimbal placed on a level table would show the spin of the Earth. Thus, if the Earth were spinning, the gimbal surrounding the gyroscope would show a movement of 1.25 degrees within 5 minutes and 15 degrees in 1 hour. As the United States Navy training film illustrates, after 6 hours, the gimbal would turn 90 degrees underneath the gyroscope on a spinning globe. Such an experiment using a gimbaled gyroscope has been performed. The experiment showed no movement whatsoever of the gimbal around the gyroscope, thus proving that the Earth is not a globe. You see, the thing is that everyone who believes in a spinning Earth wants the flat earthers to prove that the Earth is flat, when their globe theory has actually never been proven. Never. In fact, every experiment ever conducted to prove the movement, the sphericity, the movement, and the spherical fact of the Earth has failed miserably and, in fact, proven the exact opposite. That the Earth is flat, is stationary, and does not move. The scriptures also proclaim this fact and say that the Earth is founded on foundations and shall never be moved. So are we going to accept the truth of Yah's word, or are we going to blindly go along with theories, sorry about that fly, theories that consist of heliocentric deception, or are we going to test the word of science by the word of Yahuwah and prove ourselves to be righteous workmen of his word and seeking and finding the truth in his word that describes the type of earth that we are living in? I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it is on the first page of the book that you have been reading. Bereshith, Genesis 1, tells us that the earth was created with a firmament above it to separate the waters above from the waters beneath, and that the sun, moon, and stars are within our expanse, and they are making their course around the center of our earth. Do not be deceived, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that the earth is indeed flat and stationary and protected will guard our hearts and minds from the coming deception, the coming alien deception that this rogue and terrorist government will be spewing upon the earth very, very soon. And that is the whole reason that we truly stand, that we have, that this Flat Earth Ministries is going to make waves, because we are here to shatter the heliocentric deception that has been placed over the minds of not only Yah's people, but the entire plane Earth that we live in. Because of this very fact, they are trying to deceive you to believe in either an alien rapture or alien deception. So wake up, open your eyes. More videos are coming to you like this.